Houston, we have a problem.
I heard clicking.
So I'm hearing clicking coming from up here. Sounds like maybe the fuel solenoid. So I've been online talking about this with the guys at Wood-Mizer's official web Facebook site. So I've been given some things to look at. So it seems electrical to me. So the first thing I want to do is see if I'm getting voltage up at the starter solenoid. So let me get my voltmeter. And what I'm trying to do is determine whether or not I got voltage coming in here, right here, on this blue line right here, right? So that's coming from the switch through a fuse, ultimately to this line right here. All right, so there is no voltage coming on the back side of that. So now I'll try it from the back side. You back in zero?
Yeah.
All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to pull it. I'm gonna go straight to this plug here. All the way over to the right. I'm not seeing any voltage there. So we know that there is a fuse in this circuit. There's two fuses. There's a big fuse labeled F2 on the diagram. It's like I think it's a 150 amp fuse that comes from the battery. It's between the battery and the switch. Then after the switch, on the start circuit, there's another 5 amp fuse. And the 5 amp fuse is between the switch and the solenoid. All right, so what I want to do now is find that fuse and test it. Now here's something I noticed. Apparently there are two spare mega fuses right here. Obviously not connected to anything, so there must have been spares that Wood-Mizer provided for us. There's a 225 amp, and I'm hoping that the other one is 150 amp, but I don't think we have a problem with that fuse. If I had to guess, I would say it's underneath this panel here. Yeah, matter of fact, that's what they're showing you, that the fuses exist underneath there. That's that big 150 amp fuse I was talking about. Well, how's the whole electrical system check out, right? All right, so let's boot it up. Obviously, I'm getting power on everything, so it's got good power. And yesterday, I recharged the battery, and I even tried it with a jump pack. So there's nothing wrong with the electrical system as far as the power source goes. So let me disconnect the battery. All right, so no power. Obviously, she's weather sealed. All right. So that's what's going on inside this panel. Now here's the switch. Right here, the start switch. All right, you can see it's got a couple of circuit breakers in the circuit as well. There's a circuit board over here. It's probably your simple set and your main circuit board on your simple set. I understand there's supposed to be a little pot of grease, and there it is. So you're supposed to grease these contacts every once in a while. So I should probably do that while I got this thing off. All right, look at that. You can see a little bit of rub in there. There we go. So he's rubbing up against the bottom there. So we should probably put a little bit of grease on there before we close this thing up. But there's supposed to be a little 5 amp fuse in here somewhere on this circuit. What is this guy? Looks like, there's your 10 amp fuse. Now, in that fuse, I don't know if you can see it, but that fuse, my friend, is blown.
Oh,
See that?
we're in the middle.
Yeah,
Okay.
see right there? It should be a complete arch. Amps is 10 amps, but it doesn't have the right blade size. If you see the difference in these, even though it came from a box at automotive fuses, these obviously the small form factor. But let me see if I can at least get a test done here. So it does fit in there. All right, so I should be able to get 10 amps across this thing right now. So I have to hook the battery back up. Switch is in the off position. Finger tight for now. Let's see what happens. It just blew that fuse.
Huh. Okay.
Did you hear it pop?
I heard a noise. Yeah.
Yeah, it just blew that fuse. In the regular diagram for this, that fuse didn't exist. I don't know why it's there now. But we're gonna jumper this. And if this doesn't come out or we blow something up, this will never make the video. All right, so. All right, so I'm gonna shut this off. I don't know why it's blowing the fuse. Something's blowing. I mean, it just could be, to me, 10 ohms is 10 ohms, right? I mean, 10 amps is 10 amps. That should be a 10 amp fuse. I don't know why the form factor would have anything to do with it. That's like saying if I took this guy here, and you know, it's 10 amps across that circuit. It's just in a smaller form factor, and it did fit in there. So why it blew, I don't know. But I got another one.
Same form factor.
Yeah, unfortunately. Because to me, 10 amps is 10 amps, man. Should work, right? Unless there was something in here that was causing something to freeze, right? And it was pulling too much current. Now listen, watch this. See if it blows. Bring it over here close. See if you can see it blow. Just like that. Bam!
Yeah.
Something's pulling more than 10 amps.
Huh.
So, that means something might be grounded. Little corrosion somewhere, or let me get the correct fuse format, and then we'll try it.
Yeah. Let's try that instead of try a second guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So where would you pick something like that up?
Well, it's an automotive type fuse, so I'll keep looking around in the shop, see if I might be able to find one.
Okay.
I found those.
Yeah.
Found a whole box of those. So let me do that. So the 10 amp really, that little circuit right across here. If I find the correct format and it keeps blowing the fuse, then we've got another problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And you wouldn't want to bypass it, I guess. It's not
No,
smart.
I wouldn't want to put a jumper in there because I want to know what could be possibly doing that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right, so I'm back from the auto parts store. So, guy says, do you need the mini fuse or a regular size? I said, well, I had the mini fuses, but it kept blowing them. He goes, oh, dude, if you can fit that mini fuse in there, 10 amps is 10 amps. I said, well, that's what I thought. I said, but give me the big ones anyway. No sense in blowing all of those fuses. So I got a new fuse, and I am going to insert it in here as you're supposed to. Close that guy up. Now, one thing I did before I started, I got some contact cleaner while I was there. Now I didn't put this on video here, but this connector here, I opened it up and looked inside, and it had a lot of stuff in there. My guess is, as you can see, the backside, obviously sawdust can come flying in there. And I know during a couple of the storms, our cover blew off. And so there was probably a lot of moisture buildup in there because it looked pretty nasty inside. So I went ahead and used some contact cleaner and blew that out. All right, so in both sides. So now that's all clean and ready to go. I inspected the blue wire that came in here. I didn't see any obvious shorts on the blue wire. So that looks good. So there's a blue wire that comes off here. I don't know if it's to the related circuit or not. It might be. I have to pull out the diagram. But the blue wire, if it goes up in here, it looks like the engine harness goes up here, and maybe this is the same blue wire that doubles back and connects right here. So we'll have to see. Now, so while I have this open, and before there's this cup of grease. It's right here. It's Velcroed right here. All right. I went ahead and I cleaned out all the contacts on here, and I put a little dab of Duya on each one of these. I cleaned these all up and put a little dab of this grease on those contacts on these switches right here. So I want to put a little more on there because I didn't have an acid brush to make sure I got it on there good. So I'm going to do a little bit more of that before I close it up for good. But what we want to do now is see if the electrical repair is fixed. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the panel back in place. There we go. I'm going to put the battery cable, the positive back on the battery. I'm going to just put that finger tight for now. All right, and now we'll see. All right, and so that was, if I had to guess, I would say it was blowing that fuse because of the corrosion, or not the corrosion, but the gunk that was built up inside this plug on the engine harness. So and then moisture got in there, and it was popping the fuse. So there we go. It's fixed. Since I'm going to open the panel back up, I'm going to disconnect the positive charge. Positive terminal on the battery. You know what they say about electricians, when you got one hand and kind of going along in a circuit, put the other hand in your pocket. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and grease that up a little better before I close this up. Like I said, I just used this tip of this to put some grease on it. I'm gonna use an acid brush. And I got a follow-up to an earlier video too. I was looking at while I was kind of waiting to get all this stuff squared away. It was in an earlier video that we had where this switch right here came all the way back and it seemed wrong. Make sure I got plenty on this thing here. I did notice that I was getting a little bit of hesitation a couple times when I was trying to pull it back, as if it wasn't getting good electrical connection. So I'm hoping this might clean that up. I think I got it all. So what I'm going to do, put this right back to where it was. Should have a little spot like this for those fuses too, because I can see that happening a lot. I mean, the cover got blown off of it, and I'm pretty darn sure because this is open on the back. It's open on the back side, and you can. There's nothing filling it. Sawdust gets in there. Sawdust gets in there. Moisture gets in there. That's a short wait and a half. All right. So I think we're good here. Real quick check. Didn't leave any tools in here. And make sure everybody here is in its rightful place. We're ready to put the screws back in. So now, what was I saying earlier? So let's look at this handle here. You're like, why the hell was I able to bring it back like that? Something broke? I don't think something's broke. I think something wore out though. If you look at this right here, you can see where they've been kind of rubbed, really, right there. And all that's really stopping it is the screw head here. So maybe I could stack another washer underneath it. But I know about it, so it's nothing I do. Now, so you saw a little bit of wear on that one, right? Let's look at this side. This side has not been, if you notice, this side actually has a detemp position. See, for locking it in forward, then you drive it, you know, set the speed with the rheostat or potentiometer or whatever it is. So, see, that's not worn at all. So, my son was the first one to pull it past the detents, and so he probably just got a little, he's a big guy, so he got put a little too much oomph into it. Pull it past. Once you pulled it past, and it came across those, then it was easy enough to do every time after that. All right. But as you can see, that's all you got here. So screws. So there's really nothing mechanically wrong with it. I suppose I could swap this, put this one on that side, but why bother? And so it's like that switch actually has a locking position. That switch over there, nobody knew that it did until somebody, you know, pulled it a little too hard and brought that plastic right on top of those screws. But nothing was broken. All right, so we need to button up the battery, get it all back together, and hopefully get the milling soon. So that was the problem. I believe it was some extra gunk up there in the engine harness, and it just needed to be cleaned out. And that was causing a short, which was blowing that fuse. All right. Hope you learned something. I know this is the first time I had to crack that open. So the mill's only 2 years old. I've only got 78 hours on it. So it's, you know, it's a hobby, more of a hobby for me, but I got a forest full of trees and they always fall or something. And so might as well do something with the lumber. And so, you know, so I don't put a lot of hours on this thing. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Thanks for watching.